All right, here we go. Gloria Day, everybody.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Great. Wonderful.
You are sort of an artist. You're a illustrator. You do all sorts of stuff.
I am.
What's your like rundown of things that you have put your hand to?
Oh man. I feel like I've done a lot of different things like in the art space. The first thing that comes to mind, and what I do the most now is like illustration.
Yeah.
I love to draw. I also love to paint, but drawing is like a different experience. I let myself mess up a little bit more when I'm illustrating something. I think it came from like a love of like comics, you know what I mean? And even like picture books growing up. Just love seeing like art in books. That was really cool. And never went to like art school or anything like that. I don't know. Anytime I wanted to draw, I would just draw.
So I had a friend in like grade school who was like super good at drawing, and he was like my best friend, and I would like try to draw like him, and I never could, and so I always get like real bummed out. I would be like, he would get A's on all the art projects, and I'd be like, mine looks like like nailed it, right? That job, trying to make the cakes like the fancy people.
Right.
And so for you were like the good artist, or did you take some skill level? Like, how was it for you?
I don't know if I was good. I think I was, for whatever reason, really comfortable with like messing up. You know what I mean? Like, I think people, no matter what age you are, like they show up in the art space, like thinking you have to be really, really great as soon as you start. That might be like music, painting, drawing, whatever. And I just remember like enjoying the erasing and trying again and erasing and trying again. I remember watching, who knows what I was watching, like maybe a documentary or something on Disney, and watching like the old school, how they would like flip, like almost like the flip book, having to erase and draw again. And I was like, okay, that's like part of the process. I can't just show up and draw something and have it be perfect the first time. I don't know, embraced it as part of the process.
Yeah.
So when you say like a good, I don't know. I don't know if I was good, but I looking back, I think I had a little bit of talent.
Yeah,
more than most.
Well, I've seen your work recently, and it's really sharp, and I appreciate it a lot. I'm not a person who has an eye for art, so growing up and stuff, were you looking for paintings and things like what were you drawn to like look at?
Definitely like Disney. I think I was a Disney kid.
Yeah.
We just grew up watching those movies, and I remember just looking at the details, you know what I mean? Of course you're watching the movie, but I would watch these movies so many times, like over and over again, like The Little Mermaid and Sleeping Beauty, and it was almost fun for me to like catch something that I didn't, see the first time. But yeah, the details are what mattered. Even in picture books, I remember like why is that little mouse right there in the corner? Like the little just kids books always have like fun stuff like that. So it was the details really for me.
Yeah, so you weren't necessarily into going into the museum and looking at all the Van Goghs and all that stuff.
No, not really. I mean, it's like all of that stuff happens and you kind of forget, or you just don't realize how exposed you are, to like art. I grew up in LA, and
really,
so I'm trying to remember. We did go to like the Children's Museum, and it was like there was one part of it that was really hands-on and creative, and they had like a lot of like art supplies and stuff like that. But I don't recall like ever going into an art museum.
So Los Angeles though, so I would think, since you're here in St. Louis now, obviously a different art scene, I would think, at least in some ways, right? That's where people who want to work in the arts typically go out west and things like that. So what was, how could you compare the two in terms of like what it was like?
Yeah. I grew up in the suburbs. I was in Los Angeles County, and, thinking back, like my childhood was more, it was like less art, less like music and culture, and more just like outdoorsy stuff. Always at the beach. Loved the beach.
Yeah.
Miss it all the time. But also like being at parks and, like creeks, and like my 6th grade trip was up to like Lake Arrowhead, you know, and then my 7th grade trip was to Catalina Island. Like we took a bus, I guess, to Long Beach, and then like hopped on this boat, and me and, my 7th grade class, or all of the 7th graders in the school, go, get on a boat and go out to an island. It's just like,
that is stuff
not
that we did not do in St. Louis.
No,
that is outside my realm of understanding.
But like, as a kid, you just kind of, you don't know what the rest of the world is doing, so you just do it and you enjoy it. And I remember that about my childhood, like a lot of like just nature. I was a Girl Scout, just doing a lot of little camping things. So yeah, it feels like, going back to art really didn't have a strong presence in my life until later.
Yeah, so what happened?
Oh man, that's a good question. Like, when did art happen? I think it was, the first thing for me was film. So, I mentioned, just loving all things Disney. But then when I started watching like different movies and also getting into like movie musicals.
That's something I could never dip my fingers in. So you liked it though.
Man, I love a good, I didn't want to like call myself like a Broadway, like, it wasn't like the theater for me per se, but I mean, West Side Story, Grease, just all of the musicals that
I've seen 50% of that. I've seen Grease, right?
And that's it.
West Side Story, I couldn't tell you anything about it.
Oh man, these are such good stories.
A young boy, I don't know if that's my speed, but
okay, yeah, I get it. I really do. And but I think, it was film, and I'm trying to think the first time I just really could appreciate a movie. I went to see Apollo 13, and I think I was 13, still living in LA. It was like a little field trip or something like that. And I was in the theater, and that was one with like Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks is going to the moon. Yeah. Oh, dude, that was super, super thrilling.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, just, prior to that, it was like seriously all Disney stuff that I would watch. And as a 13-year-old, I'm in the theater, and I'm with my like little group of friends, and like, the mom, like, we had parents with us and stuff like that. But anyway, we're watching the film, and spoiler alert.
What happens?
I know, right?
Oh no.
Tom Hanks, the crew, they like, it's that moment where they have the shot of like the open sky, and they're like, are they gonna make it? Are they not? Of course, I probably didn't even know really what was gonna happen, but I was like, I watch it, and the ship, the little shuttle, like, appears, and I start crying.
Yeah.
And I was just, I don't know what I was in that moment, but I was like, wow, film.
Yeah.
Stories can really.
That's so interesting because, I heard a story once about Walt Disney. Walt Disney had tried a couple different times to make things work. He had originally had a different character, right? He had a rabbit, right? And so before Mickey Mouse, he had Rabbit the Rouse. I forget, Oswald, I think it was the So he had Oswald the rabbit.
Yeah.
And he was making these like little pictures like prior to movies. So you would go see a movie, like a real movie, and like there'd be like a 3-minute like preview essentially. They didn't have previews back then, but you would watch this like animated thing they would play, and he would go to like individual theaters and try and sell this reel basically of this 3-minute thing of Oswald the Rabbit. Well, anyway, it became popular, but he lost the rights to it somehow, and he had to start all over. He starts Mickey Mouse or whatever. And it's so funny you said crying because, they spent all this money to make Snow White. Or one of the first. I think Snow White was the first major like feature length cartoon movie, and they were showing it for the first time, and he saw people in the audience crying, when she's falling asleep and all this stuff, and he's like, I got it. Like he talks about it in his book. He knew that was the moment that cartoons were gonna make it as a legitimate movie because the cartoons were able to pass on that emotion. Yeah. And so even though it was drawn and it's being voiced over and there's nothing real about this, it still brought real feelings of, and that's the power of art, right? Yeah. Isn't it? And so I think that's the reason that Walt Disney would have noticed that. I would not have noticed that the crying like was the key to like unlocking exactly what these films were going to be and why he continued to create them. But I think for artists, and the thing that I can't appreciate because I'm not an artist, is like how making something like I can make a video or make a movie and try and produce that, but it's like sitting down with a piece of paper and like being like, okay, how am I going to evoke some emotion through color and pencil, and like that's to me is so it's so out there, but God has made us all to do different things, and so I'm just impressed by people who are like, I'm going to get this pencil and paper out and make something. Yeah,
I mean, I think it all comes down to storytelling, though.
Yeah,
it's just the way you choose to tell that story. So for you, it might be film. Another person, it might be a Broadway musical. And then some people, it's like, I'm going to create a character out of thin air.
Hold on. Did you sing the musicals, though? Let's talk about, like, were you like, oh,
Oh, man.
Can you belt out a tune for us?
That's still me.
Is it?
Yeah. Like, and I can't turn it off, man. Like, I just need permission. And then it's just like, okay. So, for example, a couple weeks ago, I was on the Merrimack and...
Like a float trip or something?
In a canoe.
A float trip. Okay. So that's a Missouri thing. That's you guys go to Catalina Island. We go on the float trip in the backwaters of Missouri.
That's where that came up. I was like, so this was like the school trip? Great.
Get on the bus, take you to the top of the hill, and you float down.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, cool. But it was beautiful. Like, man, the weather was so gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I was like in the canoe, and we were with like a group of maybe like 7 people. And at one point, I hear somebody like in the other canoe just being funny, but they start singing Pocahontas like just around the river.
Jam?
Yeah. And I was like, what? Because I was thinking that, like, of course, how could you not be in a canoe and just, and so. That
Vanessa Williams vibes. I know who sang that song. That was like one of the first popular songs. She sang Colors in the Wind, right?
I know she did. Yeah, Colors of the Wind. You know what I don't love though?
What?
Is when the pop stars and the R&B singers get a hold of these Disney songs. Like, I do love the original character version, like and then you get like all of a sudden Celine Dion singing, or whoever, and it's okay. Or like, who was it? Peebo Bryson and somebody else singing Beauty and the Beast, and I was like, don't mess. There's
a big hubbub today. Speaking of cartoons, like Chris Pratt is doing the voice of Mario. I don't know if you've seen this. So they posted the trailer for the new Mario movie yesterday, and everybody's mad because it just sounds like Chris Pratt. Like Mario's like, we all know what Mario sounds like. Hey, it's me, Mario, and it's just like, hi, I'm Chris Pratt.
Oh,
not going well.
There was a golden era of Disney, and it's inevitable. Things are going to change, and the way we do movies and art in general is going to evolve. But it's hard because everybody's like in it, So like you said, you hear somebody, you hear that voice, and you're like, no, it's just Chris Pratt doing the voiceover. It's Kevin Hart doing this.
Get somebody who's supposed to be doing it, right? Get somebody who is like talented voice actor to do this thing. Get somebody who is a talented singer to sing the song. We don't need pop star to come in and do this. It doesn't the kids who you're aiming this movie at, by the way, don't know the difference.
Right.
When it comes to art, kids are just like, I like this or I don't. They're very black and white in that way. Right?
Yeah.
And you were an art teacher, right?
Yeah, and that just that was weird how that came about, because again, like, I didn't like study art, definitely not even like an education. I didn't major in education. I got my undergrad in English, creative writing specifically, and I found myself like having the opportunity to like teach writing classes to kids, but I was living in Atlanta, and
LA to Atlanta, quite the jump.
Don't even get me started on all the in-betweens.
No,
don't. That's
been around the block a couple times.
That is not how it was. Definitely was not LA, Atlanta. It was. Do you want the rundown?
Yeah, give it to me. I got time.
Okay, all right. It's not that bad. Well, actually, it is. Anyway, so grew up in LA.
Yeah.
And then right before high school, that's when I moved here. So I went to high school here, actually 8th grade, and then high school. Then I got a scholarship to an HBCU, Alabama A&M in Huntsville, Alabama.
Go Bulldogs.
Yeah, okay.
No, everything's a Bulldog. I love Bulldogs.
Like, that worked out great. That's true, though. That could have been like 10 other schools, and it would have worked. Yeah, so it was LA, St. Louis, Alabama.
Quite the jump.
Yeah, but also fun. You know what I mean? Like, I guess as a kid, you can't really say like, no, I'm not going with you to St. Louis, Missouri. But I was upset. Like, when it was time to move, I was like, this is not cool,
Catalina
Mom.
Island.
Yeah.
Where am I gonna go?
Like, what?
What's in Missouri? They got the arch thing. What is that? Who cares?
Right. And the thing is,
no beach. Yeah, in sight.
None. No. Like, what do you?
Don't even need a swimsuit, really. You just.
It's like, what is this? Like, snow boots and a snow. Like, we never.
Not the snow boots. You never even had to buy one, did you? You're like, what is snow? You probably never seen it, right?
The first time. Well, okay, I take that back. We would travel here. Just like see my mom's sister.
You got some family.
Yeah, we had a family here. And so yeah, I'm pretty sure I'd seen snow before, but definitely like not played. And it like I remember the first time we had a chance to like go out in the snow, where like a snow day where it was like real snow, was high school for me. And just like the big snow gloves that we had, and then like the big, it was just a lot of clothing, and I was like, this is just,
there's so many clothes in my closet.
I was like, this is
I had one shirt.
Yeah, right.
They didn't even have sleeves in them.
No, I had like sundresses and like I actually had like a pair of like Looney Tunes like Converse or whatever.
Oh yeah,
like those are gone when you come to St. Louis. You're like, no, I mean, of course you have like all four seasons here, but yeah, in the wintertime, those things get put away.
World.
Yeah.
Then you go to Alabama.
Yeah. And then Alabama was cool. And really what made it cool was the HBCU experience, because I really
Explain what HBCU is for those who may not know. So
historically black college or university, and university. I can't remember if it's like and or, but yeah, so the student population is going to be predominantly African American. And so growing up in Los Angeles, okay, it was not black and white for me. It was more, I don't know, I was just surrounded by all types of people, you know, even like the music that I listened to. I was thinking about this earlier. I mean, I grew up listening to Ace of Base.
Oh, dude, that was the first CD.
Right?
I saw the sign.
I mean, like, played that tape
That was my jam.
Yeah, you know.
12th birthday, I remember it.
Yeah.
I remember getting that CD.
You know,
I played that sucker
CD.
out.
But then
Look at us.
I was also like listening to Tupac, like To Live and Die in LA. Like that was my song.
Yeah.
But also listening to a little Selena. You know what I mean? Like everything.
Yeah.
And then you move to a city like St. Louis, where it was like you need to figure out where you fit in quick, as far as like black or white.
Interesting. So you feel like the city itself is like put itself. I was talking about Kevin with that earlier. So it's just like we've divided ourselves as a city.
Yeah.
And you experienced that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, again, like when I moved here, it was in high school, and I mean, I just remember, you know, when you're the new girl, new kid, and people want to get to know you, like, where are you from? And it was always like, not just me, but just getting to know about other people. It was like, oh, is he white or is he black? Or is your mom white and dad black? And I was like, why is everybody always talking about this color thing? You know what I mean? Like, don't you want to know about the songs I listen to, or, you know, maybe what it's like to go to the beach? Like, why are you so... And I would hear things, of course, I'm not the only person who's ever experienced this, but like, you talk white, or, you know, just that whole thing. And I really was struggling to fit in. You know, you're not really like, seriously, we hear this all the time. I've heard this all the time. Like, you're not black enough, you're not white enough, or you talk white, or you act this, or you act that. And that was so frustrating for me, I guess, at that age. You know, now it's like, whatever. But back then, it was just like, I don't belong here. I don't know what's up with these, these people.
And so what did that do to your identity? Like, what do you...
It just made me feel even more lost, you know, like being pulled from what was familiar to me. And all throughout high school, I was really, you know, lucky, or I should say blessed, to meet a group of kids who were really... just like, I don't know, go-getters, you know what I mean? Like, I connected with like just really great kids when I think about it, like starting a dance team, people who were into theater, people who were on, you know, like into film and media, just really artsy and creative people. So like those became,
because you're an artist, you're drawing artist types.
And it was just like, that's where I said, okay, this is where I belong. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm white or black. It's like, we connect because you get, you know, you understand creativity, you understand like what it means to be an artist, even at age 16, 17. So then going to an HBCU, I really appreciated that too. You know what I mean? Because it's like, you can't just say, oh, the black girl who sits in that class is like, we're all black, you know? So now what? Like, now you got to find something else. It's like, oh yeah, the black girl who's an artist, who's from LA. It's like, oh yeah, Gloria. You know what I mean? It's just, you can finally like...
So even though you're still in your own sort of tribe, or your own, you know, you're able to differentiate yourself inside of that.
Yeah. And I think that's
in a way
important.
you couldn't have done when you moved to St. Louis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So,
like, your color was like the first thing.
Yeah, and that's got to be difficult.
Yeah.
What happens after Alabama?
So I actually got a scholarship to go to Alabama A&M, and long story short, I lost the scholarship. It was an academic scholarship, so you have to keep like a certain GPA. So I came back to St. Louis, and I was like, all right, I guess I'm not done with school, but I got essentially kicked out, because I couldn't keep my GPA up. And really it was just because I was trying to like work and pay and be in school at the same time. And it just got to the point where I was just like not doing well in classes, getting distracted. But then I ended up going back to school and transferring to SEMO.
Yeah.
My sister was out there, and I was like, whatever.
Coming back to Missouri.
Yeah. And I was like, but she was there. I was like, okay, if my sister's there, it'll be cool. So that's where I actually like finished,
with your creative writing English.
Yeah. And even that took some time, but I eventually like.
What were your plans for this? Like, what were you thinking you were going to be doing?
Man, I don't know. I really did.
This is what I love about people who go to school and don't know.
Yeah.
And I see this all the time. And only until I found out that God has plans for our lives did this even dawn on me that like, hey, we're going to school for no reason sometimes.
Yeah.
And like, I want to stop people and shake them sometimes, like, go because you know why you're going.
Right. That's what I would say to the youth of America. Like, it's okay to just hold off a second, don't take forever, but like, really be intentional about what you're doing, because man, college, you end up wasting so much money, especially if you're not on a scholarship. Wasting money. Like, I started off as a telecommunications major, and I'll tell you what, A&M is a great school, but you don't go to Alabama A&M for film.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I remember being here in St. Louis and applying for USC's like cinema and television school. I was like, I gotta get into that school, and I just wanted to go back to LA, and I was like, that's where you go. I actually wanted to study film coming out of high school. Like, that was what I wanted to do. I think I wanted to like, either be a director or a screenwriter. Yeah. But yeah, I was excited about film.
So I missed the part where the teaching came in. So I'm trying to connect those dots.
The teaching, I'm telling you, on accident. Well, here we go. Here it is. Because I'm telling you, life sometimes moves so quick. Yeah. You're like, how in the world did I get here? I decided, even after I got my undergrad degree in English, to study interior design. Don't know why.
Just throw that in the art bucket.
Let me rewind that. When I tell you my life is a little bit all over the place.
Yeah.
Wow. And when you sit down and think about all the
trying to do tic-tac-toe with the
wow.
Yeah.
It's like a little bit of a connect the dots here. But this is what happened. When I went to SEMO, I was, I planned on finishing maybe a year or so. I had a year or so left. And I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was like I couldn't pay for classes or something, but I ended up taking another break from school. So I didn't graduate. And so I came back to St. Louis, right? Newsflash. I come back and forth to St. Louis like anytime life gets difficult. It's like
home base.
Yeah, even though
LA was sort of home base.
Yeah, well, that's
St. Louis became.
Yeah, that's where I started, but St. Louis started it became this kind of like safe space to just kind of regroup. So I didn't love everything about St. Louis, but I was like, life is hard right now. Let me figure some things out. I'm gonna go.
Had support.
Yeah, or at least the ability to just like sit on my mom's living room couch and just like figure out life. Like, what's the next move? So, I did not finish my 4-year degree. I hadn't finished my 4-year degree yet, but I ended up just coming here and deciding to get my 2-year degree, my associate's degree. And for whatever reason, I was like, I'm going to study interior design. And when I had to figure out like what type of design do I want to do, like residential or commercial, I was like, okay, I don't want to just decorate and design people's homes for a living, like become like a personal shopper. I was like, okay, no, I'm going to do like commercial design. That could be anything from like restaurants or, banks or schools. I was like, I want to design spaces for kids, And I guess that was like my attempt to just kind of brand myself, like just take a different path, like English. This degree in English really wasn't working out. Film school, I was just like, whatever, because USC never happened. I ended up at this school, A&M, and the film program was just not what I needed it to be, so I just kind of gave up on film. So that was me kind of like figuring out something else to do. So yeah, while I was studying interior design and I did finish that degree, I decided to kind of tack on this like certificate from early childhood development. So I studied early childhood development while I was getting this interior design degree.
Yeah.
It was kind of me just kind of like making my own little, I don't know, degree,
Yeah, well, it sounds like, you hodgepodge together a lot of different, you started and even finished many different things. And so at the end of that, you were still like, well, I've done a lot. I've learned a lot. You're like a forever student almost, it sounds like,
Yeah.
When does Jesus show up in this story?
Oh, Jesus was always there. I grew up in church. I feel like I was there all the time. Yeah. My mom and dad my mom was super active in the church. Our church we were in, again, LA County. I want to say like maybe 30 minutes east of like downtown LA, right? So we were like way outside of the city. And then our church was what area was that? Like not Compton, South Central. It was not down the street. So we had to like get in the car and drive a ways to
You have to drive a lot of ways to everywhere in Los Angeles,
exactly.
right? Like it's everywhere's like a 30-minute drive.
Yeah, especially being like outside of the center of it all. But yeah, we were there all the time, and my mom was, there's like things called like a missionary, but then there were like stewardesses. Anyway, she always had some
flight.
No,
I've never heard of stewardesses.
Yeah, no, but seriously, like I was kind of confused as a kid, but she was always like in a white dress. So if I'm thinking that's a missionary.
Was this a denominational thing? Like churches in LA are different than the churches I'm used to. I guess I don't know what's going on here.
I know this. It was CME, which is Christian Methodist Episcopal.
Okay.
And yeah, I just know. Yeah, we grew up in church. We were there all the time. And as I got older, especially when we got to St. Louis, it was like mom was in everything. The choir, missionaries, and just everything. Just really, really involved. I don't think I was one of those kids or teens who, didn't want anything to do with church. I was just getting tired of it. Like
being there every week.
Yeah, I just got burned out, and I had like friends in church and everything, and it was cool, but nothing was speaking to me, especially as a kid who loves art and creativity and all that. You get to church and none of that's there. There's it's like, where do I fit in here? It's like, I'm here because my mom is here.
Yeah.
And
the story of so many children.
Yeah.
So, but eventually you started a relationship with Jesus, or were you just like, I don't want it?
To be completely honest, I didn't fully say like, Jesus, I know you are real. I believe everything there is to know about you until 2020.
Hey, come on, let's be real around here. So you were faking church a little bit. That's okay.
I don't know if I was faking it.
What would you call it?
I was just uncertain. I was just kind of like,
had some doubts.
Yeah, and
some
I know
questions.
Yeah, there is that saying, fake it till you make it, but so it feels like that's what I was doing, but I don't want to say I was faking it because I wanted to really believe, but I wasn't going to go into anything that somebody else was like making me do. It had to be true for me, and that was it for me. That was my, I guess, struggle, because I had to believe it for myself. I wasn't like, afraid of going to hell or anything like that. Like a lot of people are like, I just need to get my life together because I'm not going to hell. And I was just like, okay, yeah, but is this real?
Right.
I need this to be true before I sign the dotted line.
Yeah, so you're walking around life, going to Alabama, Atlanta, L.A., St. Louis, and it seems like mom's in the church, and you're going with her. So, like, is Jesus in those other seasons of your life where you're sort of on your own?
For me, it was more like God, right?
Okay.
But not
All right.
specifically Jesus.
So what's the difference to you in that season?
I spent a lot of time, I would say, like, away from God, right? But then the times that I was actually, like, I guess feeling more connected, those were times when, probably like when I was feeling most alone. I did struggle with some like mental health stuff for a while, and I think I just found myself really alone, isolated, and just not having anywhere else to turn. And even though maybe I wasn't hearing like the voice of God or even like praying, I could feel God's presence, like looking back, or even just having like crazy thoughts. I just feel like looking back now, God was just kind of keeping me together, like not letting me fall too far off, and I mean, technically I was diagnosed with clinical depression, but I never was okay with taking any kind of like medication or anything like that. So I guess I was supposed to be taking it, but I was like, no, maybe not the smartest thing, but I'm glad I didn't, because that can kind of lead to other things. But
well, I will speak my own experience on this, that when I was in the midst of my gambling, they put me on a lot of different medications to try and curb my stuff, and because I had serious depression as well, and the types of medicine they put me on, it was, I didn't want to get off the couch. Like, I wouldn't say that I was depressed anymore, but I also like didn't have any thoughts in my head. Like, it's like
none.
I had nothing to think about.
Right. Yeah.
So you're probably better off.
Yeah. I'm glad. It was a struggle. It really, really was. But yeah, I'm really thankful that something was saying like, don't start relying on this medication to make you better, So, yeah.
So you kept your mind about you, and you end up in Atlanta, right?
Yeah. So Atlanta that was recent.
But it leads you to St. Louis, which leads you to 2020, right? So trying to get the timeline going.
I am so hesitant to let you know that there's another city in between.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no!
Oh man!
Where did we go? New York?
Thought about it.
Mississippi.
Of course. I don't. You know what? I try to like really sometimes like analyze. Like, Gloria, what were you searching for? Like in all these different cities,
What were you searching for? If you've asked yourself that question, what did you come up with?
I was probably looking for a home, somewhere that felt like home, where it wasn't going to just crumble from underneath me, whether that's like a place or a person or a community. It always felt like things were always shifting. Sometimes it was my fault or sometimes it was someone else's decision. But, like even as a kid, moving from LA to St. Louis, that was a hard lesson in don't get too rooted in anything. So I think like I was wanting home, but I think the norm for me was to not stay too long somewhere. It's like I think, oh, okay, I've been here long enough, or something's not working out. Let's just go ahead and see what's in the next town over. But next town over was always like across the country. So the next city, after my St. Louis pit stop, I go back. Okay. I've lived a great life. Okay. I'm not going to like sit here and be like, oh man, this is terrible. Like I was all over the place. It's okay. It's totally okay. I actually got married, in that point in time when I went back to school for that 2-year degree.
Okay.
I ended up graduating, and then, my college sweetheart who I met at Alabama A&M, decided to, we just reconnected, and before you knew it, we were engaged and then getting married. And that did not work out. We were divorced maybe 3 years later. And so, that came to an end. He was actually in the military. So, he was overseas and I was, in St. Louis, And yeah, when that didn't work out, I decided to go back to school, go back to Cape Girardeau, finish up that 4-year degree, and just do something. Because once again, here's this life that I thought I was going to have my feet planted in. And now this husband who I thought was going to be around forever is no longer around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's a pattern happening here, or it just keeps happening. And so I was like, you know, Gloria, like kind of like enough's enough. Like forget about everybody else. You need to start figuring out what you want to do and just do something that's not going to get shifted because someone else comes into your life or decides to leave. Or if just things don't work out. And so yeah, I went back to the SEMO, finished my 4-year degree, and I met this really awesome guy. His name is John.
Hey, it's a good name.
Yeah. And he and I connected really quickly on our love of film. And we ended up like, he was like a film student. I was English, but I was able to take like screenwriting, which was in his department.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we connected. We made like a student film together. We won like the student film competition or whatever. And so we decided to pick up and move to Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Oh, where they filmed Breaking Bad.
Yeah. And, you know, wow, just like the most random. When I think about it, like
Gloria's put her stamps on the map.
I mean, I think I was like secretly trying to like check off all the states that you could. But so yeah, I ended up in New Mexico, and he had family there, so it wasn't completely random. But we went there together, and for that reason, like there was at a time where yes, Breaking Bad was still being filmed, and I guess New Mexico was being sold as like this place for independent filmmakers. You know, it's like you don't have to go to Hollywood. You can just come over to Albuquerque and just
meet Walter White.
Yeah. You know, I mean,
make it big.
Yeah. Whoever you needed to meet, you know, so yeah, I ended up in New Mexico, but that was a short time. It was like a year and a half that I was there. And it came to a point where, John was actually kind of over New Mexico as well. It just wasn't what we expected. And he decided he was going to continue to study film, and he was going to go to a school in Phoenix. And I was like, look, I know you and I are super close. We said we were going to stay together and just like really hit this whole film thing, like start making like short films or independent films or whatever. But I'm not going to Phoenix, John. Like I'm getting, you know, believe it or not, I'm getting tired of moving around the country and having all these like cities under my belt, but nowhere feels like home. And I'm like, I know for a fact that Phoenix is not it. And I said, John, if I'm going anywhere, LA is right there. Yeah. This is the closest I've ever been to getting back home. And I said, I'm going to LA. Terrified because I hadn't been there since I was a kid. I didn't grow up in the city. I wasn't like familiar with like Hollywood and, you know, just, but I knew I wanted to get back there. And, yeah, so I actually made my way back to LA for about 5 years.
Hollywood.
Yeah, definitely. It was more Hollywood than it was growing up, for sure. Like just being in a different part of the city and living life as an adult in LA was way different. But yeah. Oh, okay. Now I can see like it all coming to. Okay, right. So then LA. Yeah. And I was there for like 5 years, I want to say. And things were cool. I think I just was like super happy in LA. And then my sister, my only sister, tells me that I'm gonna be an aunt. I was like, yes, awesome. Like I cried, the whole thing, you know, just super excited. But then I just started to wrestle with like, I'm finally happy. I'm back in LA. I feel like I'm who I am. But everybody else, sister, mom, everybody's back in St. Louis. And I felt like just torn, you know? And so, yeah, St. Louis won the battle with that. I ended up coming back to St. Louis because I couldn't be happy that far away from my family.
Sure.
You know, so I ended up back in St. Louis, and I just Atlanta was supposed to be the last stop.
Okay.
In my mind.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know we've done like a full.
Yeah. Hey,
but
we're on the Gloria Wolf tour,
Yeah.
and I'm here for it.
Yes.
So just
Okay.
let's
So I came back. So it was like L.A., St. Louis again, and when I was here in St. Louis, I decided I knew St. Louis wasn't for me.
Yeah.
I knew that I was here because of my sister and wanting to be closer to like my niece and everybody. But I was like, I'm not happy here. I need to pick a city and sit down somewhere and start a life. And by that time, I think I was like 30. I'm 39 now. So I must have been like 35 when I was like, look, I just need to pick a city. So I was like, you know what? Atlanta is close enough to like if I want to hop in my car, it's not like a down the street type of thing, but like if I need to get to you all, I don't have to hop on a plane because I was actually getting tired of flying back and forth from LA. Like the flight was like 4 hours. I felt like by the time I landed here, it was time to go back, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, not Nashville. I was like, not Chicago. I was like, let's try Atlanta. I'm gonna try Atlanta. And yeah, that was the same year that I think my mom was diagnosed with like dementia at the time where I was so ready to go find a little city of my own. And there was this one moment where I was like, I should stay in St. Louis. But I was like, I can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
Like I keep doing this whole run away and come back, run away and come back, run away and come back. And I was like, not this time. I'm not doing it. I'm going to Atlanta and just make it work. And yeah, I came back because mom got to a point where she couldn't live alone.
Yeah.
You know, and I actually had mom come to Atlanta and live with me for like a month, you know, just for actually it was like a little vacation, kind of like just get out of St. Louis, see something different. And I was like, yeah, mom, you might be able to live down here with me. Like, let's make this work so I can stay in my home, my city, and mom can just, you know, just live here and we'll figure it out. And yeah, she came and stayed with me. And probably like 2 weeks in, it was cool. I was like, yep, this is gonna work. This is gonna be fine. And then something happened where I realized this isn't going to work. Because I had my first teaching job, like legit teaching job at a charter school in Atlanta. And that was like full time, like get up, be gone in the early hours of the morning and then don't get home till like 3-4 in the afternoon. Mom can't be left alone. Like I could see if I had like my sister in Atlanta, but I would have had to figure it all out on my own. And my mom really was like struggling also. She was like, yeah, but what about your sister? And what about the kids? And what about, you know, she was still really, she was happy to get away, but you could tell she was struggling with being away from my younger sister. They're much closer. And she just was, kind of struggling.
Yeah. So your mom gets dementia. You've been moving around and now you're sort of called. So you've been looking for all of these, you know, answers to life's question. Like, what am I supposed to be doing? Where am I supposed to be? Yeah. And then, you know, this diagnosis happens and it causes you to sort of stop all that for a moment. And then you become the caretaker for your mother. Yeah. And this ultimately, does this lead you to Jesus? This
is how we get to Jesus. Yeah. You know, I was still in Atlanta, when I had this moment. It was during like 2020, like pandemic. I was in my apartment. Mom had already come back here. So I was like in Atlanta still, just realizing, okay, I'm in Atlanta, but I probably need to go to St. Louis eventually. But at the time I was in Atlanta, just still doing that. And I remember being in my apartment and it was like this decision. It wasn't like a decision. It was like this sudden wave of belief that like Jesus, you are real. Yeah. You know, and I don't know. It was like really short, but it was really like confirmed in my heart. Like I believed like Jesus, you're real. I don't know anything else. I don't know what else that means, what my life is going to
So
look
were you
like.
going to church? Like, it just seems so random to just pop up one day in your heart.
Well, I was watching probably like Transformation Church or something like that at one during that time. Somebody's sermon was on, and
but how'd you get turned on to that? Like, you were probably living a season where that wasn't a part of your life, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
at some point that Jesus, like, the sermon's got to get put on the TV, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Here we are. So thank you, John. You're you're really good at being like, hey. But what about that? There's something missing in there that we're all, walking around, dancing around. Yeah, there was a stretch of time where I wasn't like, I wasn't mad at God or running from God. I just didn't. There just wasn't room, for God in my life. I think I've always been a person who just figures things out on my own, and I guess I felt like I didn't need God. I wasn't looking for God.
Yeah.
And it had been like that for a while, probably just a number of years.
Yeah.
And so when I got to Atlanta, I was only in Atlanta for 2 years. And I kind of look at it from like at, year 1 and year 2. Year 1, I got hired to teach at a school.
Right.
I actually was in a relationship in Atlanta that first year, and I had my like own apartment that I loved, had my little car, like everything was just cute and together. Like, yay, adulthood finally, because still
you've been searching for it for a while.
And so I'm telling, like, this was like 30, it wasn't that long ago. It felt like it took me so long, but I finally found a city that I loved. I have this job that I love. I have this person that I love. And I have like all the little things to just kind of round out a nice little adulthood scenario. And then the school that I was working for, I guess the way I want to say it is they lost like their funding. It was like a private school. Okay. And they couldn't pay their staff. They had to let like a lot of people go. And I was one of them. And so I look up and I've lost my job, which led to me losing my apartment. Then the relationship ended. This is all like within a month, like at the end of the school year, like August. Everything was
season.
Bad. Like, it was a tough month. I was like, what in the world's going on here? And everything was falling apart in this, like within 30 days. I've never been evicted. I've never had a car repossessed. I've never, like, none of that. And all of that was like happening.
Yeah.
I was lucky to get my car back, but like, yeah, I was like, what in the world just happened? And I remember like probably that last week that I was like, moving my stuff out. Cause actually I decided to like move my stuff out before I could even get evicted or whatever. And I was packing up my apartment and the relationship had already ended. And I was like, I just found myself praying to God.
Yeah.
I was like,
losing everything will do that sometimes.
Yeah. I said, okay, God, you are the only thing that's left. Like, I was really comfortable on this little foundation that I had, built for myself, this little life, and all of that was gone. And I was like, I don't know what else to do, but I don't have anything except you, God. And, I actually ended up moving out, outside of the city, still in Atlanta with a cousin, and, it was just quiet out there. I was living like in the heart of Atlanta, but then I moved out to, kind of like this, like a suburb, and I just had time to like walk through a neighborhood or like, around the, the neighborhood park. It was just quiet. That's all I could really like say about it. It was just really quiet, and I had so much time to just walk with God, like no job, no relationship, no home, just time. And that's when I started making my way back. My cousin invited me to church, and it was like one Sunday morning, actually. She was like, just come on, just get up and go with me. And I was like, I'm working on something. Like, I had my laptop up, and she's like, just bring your laptop. Just come on. I was like, what are you talking about? Like,
you can bring your laptop to church?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's like the first thought. I was like, because, growing up in church, I was like, laptop. You'd be lucky if you could bring your little Game Boy or whatever in the car with you. Like, you don't bring anything into church but your Bible and yourself, you know, like we need to focus, right? So I was like, what kind of place is this where you can just roll up in here and with the laptop and nobody's gonna be like looking at you? But when I got there, it all made sense because it was this really great church, and they had like this just like kind of like a cafe area. So I was able to bring in my laptop and just sit there and work on what I was working and listen to the sermon. And I just felt like I was there, but I didn't feel like I had to go through the doors of the sanctuary just yet, which was perfect for me because I was like, okay, fine, I'll go to church. And I was like, oh, I can actually sit here and not have to face, you know, God right now.
Yeah. You're sort of playing by the creek.
Yeah. You know, and I was like,
not ready to get in it.
Yeah. I was like, this is cool. Which led to, you know, it made me comfortable enough to come back because now it's like, okay, I can ease my way into this, you know, because I still at that point, even though I was talking to God, I still was at a point where I was like, God, it's been a minute. Yeah. It's been a long time since you and I have connected.
Hard to reestablish that relationship.
Yeah. And, yeah, I want to say I'll never forget it because I was sitting in the lobby with my laptop, probably like the second time, maybe third time I had gone, and this song, the praise and worship team was singing it. I couldn't even hear the lyrics, but it was a song called Here as in Heaven, I think, by like Elevation Worship, and I could just hear like the sound of this song. It was so beautiful. Yeah. And I just closed my little laptop. I said, I got to get in there. I gotta go get in the presence of God. Like, and like, it wasn't even like enough's enough. I had to be in there, and I just closed my little laptop and went in there and sat in like one of the last few seats, you know, back row. But I was like, okay, I'm back. I'm back. Like, I'm not running from this. And that was the very beginning of me, you know, getting back to God, and like this time not running away from him. Yeah. So that was like 2019. Yeah. Yeah. So then 2020 rolls around, and that's when I was like able to be like Jesus and like really specific with my relationship.
So was it just like a small increase every day and and then eventually you woke up and you were like, I think this is what I do now. Or like, what was it for you?
It was like, so I enjoyed going to that church. I actually like connected with people there, and like God and other believers became like part of my life, and even prayer became a normal part of my life. Now it didn't look like, you know, dear Father, thank you for, you know, it wasn't like that. It was just me talking to God. And you know, to be honest, I was doing a lot more of like just asking God, like, what's going on? Like, what are you doing? What's happening? You know, just almost like thinking out loud, but just like talking to God out loud. And so, yeah, there was a point in my life where I was really confused and upset. And I found myself talking to God about it, because I felt like this was all his doing. You know, I really did feel like me losing the apartment, me losing the job was bigger than me, just because of how it all happened, like all at once. I was like, God, it feels like you're doing this. Yeah. You know, because you're kind of like, everything's being taken away from me, so I can almost like look at you, you know? And I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about this today, but here we are. So the relationship that I was in Atlanta, I know I said it, I had been married at one point in my life, like age 25. Yeah. But anyway, at age in my 30s, I finally came around to dating the lady, a lady friend. I had a girlfriend. Okay. Let me just keep it real.
Found a girlfriend in Atlanta.
I had a girlfriend in Atlanta. Super like a relationship. Like, in my mind, we were going to be together. I was going to do the whole like this is my wife thing. Like, not just like, oh, we're just dating and having, like, no. Like, I introduced her to, or I know I told my dad about her. I couldn't really talk to my mom about it, but my dad, yeah. So it wasn't something that I was, like, trying to hide. Like, that was the first time that I decided that I loved somebody enough, a woman enough, to be like, this is my girlfriend, and this is gonna be like legit. And it was cool. Like any relationship, it has, you know, it had ups and downs and everything like that. But I when that relationship ended, I was like really hurt, you know, just because of how it all worked out. I wasn't perfect, she wasn't perfect, but I was like, okay, God, I'm ready to like do this again, but the right way. Now the right way in my mind was like just choosing a better woman.
Oh, okay.
Like,
all right.
because like, yeah, right. I was like, the right way. Yeah, no, to me, it was like, I'm dating this woman.
Yeah.
And the only way I was messing up was because she and I just didn't have like, we were actually friends in LA. We just had this like history that was just kind of complicated, to be honest. And I just feel like looking back, we just didn't do some of the things that we were supposed to, like, we just didn't do it in the best way. So I was like, okay, I am ready to choose a better person, a better partner, maybe someone who has God in their life. And, you know, not that she didn't, but anyway, I just felt like now I know what to look for. I want to do this the right way. I want to be in a healthy relationship. Again, still thinking like in terms of wife. Like at that point, I was like carrying this LGBTQ label. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So I was like, all right, okay, I'm okay to move on. And there was another girl who I was getting close to, and she actually like grew up in the church. Like she was like, but she was someone who identified as LGBTQ, but decided to no longer like live that life.
Okay.
I found myself having feelings for this girl, and she was the one who was like, yeah, you know, I totally get where you're coming from, but nah, like I can't, I'm not dating women anymore. Like I've already talked that out with God, and I'm not doing it. And
interesting. So everybody was like, God was in your life, but this same-sex attraction was still, it was okay. Everybody was feeling fine about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in Atlanta. All right.
I don't know what that means. So
I don't like to give it that label, but there's a larger population in that city that is like a large LGBTQ population. Like, so when I say I'm in Atlanta, there were churches everywhere, or I'll just say churches, where I could go be a believer and believe in God, but also be sitting next to my wife.
I see. Okay.
You know,
so
it was,
that approved of that lifestyle.
Yeah, for sure. Like, so Atlanta,
and we're teaching it was okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You know, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this again, but I'm gonna go to church. I'm gonna have, you know, get into a relationship that's healthy, and everything's gonna be fine. And I'm gonna say it was God. Yes, it was God who said, no.
Oh, no, God.
You're not.
I had plans.
Yeah,
God.
Right. Like I finally figured this out.
I had the thing figured out. Lord
right,
Jesus.
But it was just a no.
Yeah.
No,
so
no.
what did he say? Besides no.
Really, that was it, which was the most frustrating part, because I had all the questions. It was like, God, why? Like, we just reconnected, God. Like, I thought we were like cool, and all of a sudden you're kind of mean right now, you know? I was like, he was just like, no. And my question was, okay, God, I have finally, I'll say, embraced this part of me, because I struggled with it when I was a kid, not a kid, but like a teenager. I was very aware.
Struggle with attraction.
Yeah.
You mean?
Because I couldn't even say like struggled with it, because it didn't feel like a struggle. It was just something I recognized in myself. Yeah. But I never like was comfortable just being like out, as they call it, I guess. So when I finally was like, you know, comfortable with having and like sharing that, you know, that's my identity, and, you know, yes, I have a girlfriend and all that, I was like, what, God, why are you saying no? Like, I feel like all my life I've been trying to get to this point where I know who I am, I know where I live, I know what my own family is going to look like. Like, this is it. Like, I finally have figured out this great puzzle.
You've
right?
been searching so long, traveling all over the world to find.
Yeah, I mean, literally, like all over the country, and it's finally here, and I was like, why would you make me like this if you're not going to let me live out this life? Like, I'm really confused, God. Because this is as close to my truth as I've ever felt. I don't feel like I'm living a lie anymore. I feel like it's all coming together. I feel like I know how to choose the right person now, not just like be in unhealthy relationships, because my marriage was unhealthy. I wasn't thinking about gender. I was like, I'm ready to have like a healthy marriage. And I just wasn't getting answers. I was just getting a no. And I had to like stand on that no for a long time, for like, I'd say like a couple years, right?
Wow.
And the no was strong enough for me to realize that, all right, because while that first year in Atlanta, like I said, I had the girlfriend. I wasn't at like the parades and, you know, waving like a rainbow flag or anything like that. I wasn't like that bold and like out with my identity, but I was taking on, like, I would go, like, I don't know, be on a panel for, like, LGBTQ artists, or, you know, I would just be, like, in that community. Like, you know, that would be my connection to a couple things in the city. And so now it's just like, no, you need to let go of that identity altogether. Don't accept another invitation to be on anybody's LGBTQ panel. Don't do none of that. That was clear as day. I was mad, didn't understand it, but I was like, didn't act like you don't hear me if you want to, Gloria. You know, but that was very, very clear. And so that's been my life, like, since 2020. I came back home at the end of 2020 here to St. Louis at the end of 2020.
Take care of your mom.
To take care of my mom. And in May of 2021, I was at the point where I was so overwhelmed by what was happening to Mom. Like, I really wasn't thinking about a relationship. I wasn't thinking about anything besides, like, what are we going to do about Mom? And it was getting really difficult because we were actually all in one house. Me, my sister, my mom, like, all of us just living in one house trying to take care of Mom. And I guess it just comes from, I don't know, maybe being like the oldest sibling or just kind of like the fixer of the family. But I got to a point where I realized I cannot fix this. I know I've fixed things in the past, y'all, like, you know, saying that to my family, but I don't have the answer for dementia. I don't have a way to not even just like take this away, but like to make this easier. Like, I just don't have that. And I found
difficult to deal with.
Like, I found myself in a moment of like full surrender. Like I said, I can't.
It's a good place to be.
And
sometimes.
Because I was like, God, because by then I was like actually talking to God and like more aware of like I don't know, just my faith and like the power of it. And I still feel like a baby Christian though. Like, even though I grew up into, it's like I'm still.
So what happens in May?
I get baptized. that's what happened. My full surrender. I was just like, I'm getting baptized, going to the water, and I'm going to get baptized. I don't even know what I was expecting, but I was like, I think it was just my way of saying like I'm all in. Because
all in for God.
Yeah, because whatever this is, God, this is, I can't do this, not on my own.
So life became too hard for you, it sounds
Mm-hmm.
like.
Yeah.
Dealing with the breakup, dealing with the thoughts of your same-sex attraction,
Mm-hmm.
dealing with mom having dementia.
Mm-hmm.
It's all so heavy a burden. You're trying to have a relationship with God, and everything's just sort of piling up on you.
Yeah.
You're just like, I give up. I'm
Mm-hmm.
getting baptized. God,
Yeah.
I'm coming after you. And
Right.
so, how did you chase him after that?
So so I was baptized in May of 2021, and in July of 2021, someone told me about the Spirit Church. And that was, so a couple months later, I actually had a church home. So when I was baptized, I didn't even have a church home here. I was just maybe like watching my old church in Atlanta online, or maybe, just watching whoever I wanted to watch that Sunday.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I got connected to the Spirit Church, I'll tell you what, things started to change, in a good way. Because I had people around me. I had, just a place to go. Number one, that wasn't in dementia land, as I kind of call it sometimes.
It's the place where you lived.
Yeah. Because like in that space,
your mom has it, but you live in it.
Yeah. You drown in it daily. Wow. You can't breathe in that world. You really can't. And to be able to like come out, not only like get out of that space, but like be in church, be around other believers. It was just, I could breathe for like an hour and whatever it was, and then getting connected to different ministries. Like it just started to make me feel like I was alive again.
Wow.
But I had to do the baptism first, because that was like the public. I didn't do it for the public, but that was just like for me, like, hey, this is it.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, I always carried that role as a kid, as a teenager. My parents split up, actually. Didn't mention that, but like when I was 10. So like I kind of just took on this role of like, I don't know, more responsibility than I.
Yeah, people pleaser.
Yeah, all of that. All of that. And so that's where I was in 2021.
That's amazing. So I appreciate a good story, and yours is a tremendous story in terms of like the ebbs and flows and the valleys. So you spend your whole life. I'm going to try and recap this for you, because I just
go for it.
I love a good recap, right? So it's you have this desire to do art that's in you, and you're not really sure why or what you're going to use it for, but you're drawn to it. Yeah. And then you find yourself, maybe your parents split up, whatever the reason is, you find yourself on another part of the country, and you're still and you're realizing that race is a thing, and color's a thing, and and division's a thing, and it's not something you appreciate, and so you're still trying to find yourself a little bit, and drawn to some places that'll make you feel more comfortable, like around the people with the same skin, and where they see me more as what I do and not what I look like, right? And so, but it's still not enough, and you're always searching, and we're gonna go to Albuquerque. We're gonna try and make movies in Albuquerque. I love your story, because like it's what life looks like when you don't have Jesus in it. When you're just searching, you're always gonna be searching. Yep. And so, whether it's a marriage that didn't end well, or it's finding the same-sex attraction, and you find that that's going to be the answer to every. Oh, I finally got it! I remember. Yeah. Well, there was a time I won a jackpot when I was gambling. I was like, oh, this is finally it! I finally got there. The answer is finally here, and yet. No. At some point in that, you decided to call on God. Now, you weren't really full in on God, but you needed some attention, and he answered, and you knew him enough to where he said the word no, and it stopped you from doing something that was causing you some trouble. And so today, here you are, having surrender. I love this word surrender. It's only a word someone who's actually done it can say, because most people don't understand it. Like giving up your life to pick up the life that God has for you is a big deal. It's a big deal to leave behind the old life that you used to live, the life where you were making decisions that he had no involvement in, that you had there was no discussion. Right. God, what do you want me to do today? Who do you want me to date? Where do you want me to go to school? He wasn't in those discussions, but he's in the discussions now.
Absolutely.
And he's changed everything. And he puts you in a situation where it's still difficult because you still got to take care of your mom who's got this thing, and it's so hard, but you find yourself around a Christian community, whether it's at the church or anywhere else, and that is where you found healing and found direction in some ways and found hope in some ways. Like, and it really has over the last year that I've known you. And that's one of the reasons I just wanted to have you on the show, is because I have seen a massive transformation in your life from where you said you were and where you are today. And it has to be because this guy Jesus showed up in the middle of it. What other reason could it be, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I just, I loved that recap, because it's like, I couldn't have done that. I mean, I couldn't have, just told my life in a minute, but all of the things that I shared today, are just I guess, like, tied to this need for identity. Like, as soon as I thought I knew who I was, or where I could say I was from, or, what, like, it just got pulled away. So like, people always do that. Like, they would talk about their hometown. And sometimes I would be like, well, I'm from LA, but I'm living in St. Louis. And it's like, where's home for me? Or this is my, skin color, this is my race. But, like, do I really, like, identify with, most people who identify like that? Or I'm an artist, but, I'm still trying to find my place in that world. Like, I don't think I'm a real artist. I just like to create things, but this is like, there's a lot more to learn, and of course a lot more to, more growth and all of that to come. But
what has been the major changes, the shifts for you since Jesus has arrived, since you've been able to have him pour into you and help change your mind, whether it has to do with same-sex attraction, whether it has to do with your mom and having dementia, or whether it has to do with just being back in St. Louis? What are the major shifts that he's put in your mind?
I think I would have to say the first thing that comes to mind is, like, healing. I think when you think of, like, any kind of injury or wound, like, if you don't give it time, it's not going to heal. And I think I would have healed from a lot of things a lot faster had I just been still. And Jesus allows me the time, the room, the whatever it is, to just be still and, like, really start healing from all of it. Like, that hurt when my mom said, we're leaving LA. Everything, we're gonna go somewhere else. And people, who knows? I just know it was hard to bounce back from, as a kid. And I think
there's a variety of those same moments happening. Hurt, disappointment. Yep.
Even divorce, like, things like that take time to heal from, and you can't if you're just ready to go date the next person or move to the next city or try the next career path. Like, it's okay to change things up, but, like, are you really healed from what you're running from? You know what I mean? And my answer was no. I mean, I've been running. And I got tired. I got tired of trying to chase and look for like a home. And that's what Jesus is for me. He's like just this place I can finally rest in.
And so you're finding rest in him now. And so what are your hopes, and you're for the future? You're looking ahead maybe for the first time in a while. What are you thinking? I know that it's hard to with mom, and you don't really know what that looks like, but I mean, as far as your relationship with Jesus and what's your what are your expectations?
Well, I'll say for the first time, I'm unable to run the way I used to. Like, anytime that I came to St. Louis, I'd be like, all right, it's been a year, I'm gonna go move to, I don't know, Dallas next. You know what I mean? I can't do it. I cannot do it. When people, I run into people and they're like, oh yeah, how long have you been in town? Where are you going next? I'm like, I actually can't say. There's no timeline for dementia. Like, I know that she's in her, I want to say like mid to late stage of it, but there's not like, okay, this is about it can go from, I want to say like 8 to 10 years. We don't know. We just don't know.
Yeah.
So I am literally unable to start thinking about next steps because there's no.
But has he given you peace at all about the caretaker role since you're in that position?
Yeah, I will say it's not the role, it's what this will be for other people. I've met a lot of people who are going through the same thing. It's so hard for me to I don't know, like find a soft spot in my heart for my mom with all of this. I think there's a lot of bitterness, just like because of our relationship before all this. It's really hard for me to just be like, Mom, it's okay, like being loving. I'm actually like angry. But I think about the things that are happening in this time period. So I've been writing a lot of poetry, like a lot. I've always written poetry, but writing poetry on this specific subject, I've got so many poems, and I know it's going to be a book, I've written children's books before, but like this is a book where I feel like this is going to be for other people who are like at home right now, probably in year 2 or 3 of caregiving for a parent who
even with Jesus in your life, it's difficult.
It is.
And you mentioned anger. Like God doesn't want us to be angry, except it's sin.
Right. Yeah. Angry is the wrong word, because I know for a fact I'm exhausted. I'm frustrated that this is what I get. This is the version of my mom that I get. Like, this is the last. That's frustrating.
That's sad,
yeah, because I finally came to a point, especially when she came to live with me in Atlanta, even though I already knew she was going to be dealing with dementia. Like, I was like, hey, Mom, we actually have fun together. We would like paint in the apartment. We would go for walks, laugh, dance, cook. Like, we were spending time together that I just didn't let myself spend with her before, just because of just conflict and tension that we always kind of had. But I was like, yeah, this is cool. We can do this. We can be friends. We can have a good relationship like you and my younger sister have. I want that. But the worse that it got, the more of her started leaving, to the point where you can't even have like a real conversation. Like, if I just go to her and say, Mom, what do you think about this thing? Just anything. What's going to come out is so jumbled and nearly impossible for me to even understand that it's like, how does this work? Because right now I really want to just talk to my mom and get some wisdom and get some guidance.
Enjoy those last.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
So what are your prayers right now? What are you asking God to help you with, or to get through this?
I need hope right now. Because when you're living in this space, and I can only speak for myself, there's no like end in sight, right? The thing that you want this to be over, I'll say, I want this to be over, but that means that Mom is gone. It's like a really hard.
Ooh, that's a tough.
It's hard. It's hard because
it's an impossible place to be.
Yeah, and yet here I am. Yeah, I'm walking in it every day.
And you're not alone. You said many people you've talked to. People are going through this.
And for whatever reason, like, this whole thing is like taken over. There's so many people who are like dealing with dementia and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and just all these like just mental and okay, come and help me out. Neurological. There you go. It's a fun word. Diseases. And, honestly, I thought it was always like memory.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I can't remember where my keys are, or I can't remember where that person's name. But now I'm learning that dementia and, all of that is a processing disorder. Like my mom will go to wash her hands and say after using the restroom or something like that. Yeah. And I actually in the bathroom can't leave toothpaste and a toothbrush and soap out, because then the soap is toothpaste or the toothbrush is, you can't do that. When I just got an apartment and we're in there together, and my aunt came by and she was like, where's the stuff at? I said, oh yeah, we actually have to keep that put away. Yeah. Because you see things and it's not the information isn't coming in the way it used to. Yeah. Or the words aren't coming out the way they need to. It's like something's going on with the processing part of your brain. Why things are happening, who is that person, all of that. It's just it's hard. But yeah.
I wanted to give you a verse before, because as you were talking, you said I needed hope. I lost my TV screen, so I gotta make sure that this is still on. I guess so. Yeah, we're still going. Okay. So you said you were looking for hope, and so I didn't want to say this wrong. I have this verse in my heart, but I'm just gonna give this to you, and we'll close it with this, and we'll Romans 15:13 says, I pray that God is the source of hope, will fill you completely with joy and peace because you trust in him. You will then overflow with confident hope through the power of the Holy Spirit. So it's all about trust. Gloria, it's all about trusting him. Whatever that trust looks like. Trust that you have the strength to do this. Yeah. Trust that he's given you the opportunity to manage whatever hardships this is. Hope is a trust thought away. I trust you, God. I trust you to take this. I trust you to be with me. I trust you to help me. I trust you to send what you need and send what we need. I don't know what that trust looks like, but as you were saying that, I was just like, whatever that trust level is for you, we got to increase that, and then hope is soon to come, and I want that for you. That's what the whole reason I brought it up. It's like I want that for you. I want you to not feel hopeless, at least in this situation. In other situations you may not feel that way, but I just appreciate you so much.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for saying that about or sharing that scripture, because I know prior to even this week, I realized I was putting my hope in other things, like my own family, whether it's a husband or back in the day, a wife, not back in the day, but before or even a career. I want to write kids books, and I was working on a kids book, and I found myself ignoring mom and putting my hope in, well, I'm getting ready to get published, and I was just
make that money.
Or accomplishing a goal or a dream, and it's just one by one through this whole thing. It's just nope, we're not doing that. Nope, we're not doing that. Nope, we're not. God, I'm not. Yeah. I don't like to say God is doing it, but the way it's coming together is these things that once were kind of idols, and in the place of my hope are being wiped away. Yeah. I'm not being I'm not given that opportunity right now to rest in anything else but God.
Well, hey, anybody who rests in God and that's their last place they go, they're going to end up better for it. Yeah. But I appreciate you sharing your story with me today. Appreciate you coming on. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Hey guys, thanks for watching today's episode of the broadcast. Until next time, we pray that you discover a future and a hope for your life today.